So this is the first of many videos I will be releasing for my new PC parts series. I will put out several videos a month consisting of me reading PC parts lists that I have made. So let's get started, shall we? So before we get started, I just want to put it out there that all of these builds contain Intel processors and NVIDIA graphics cards. I know, that's incredibly biased. Now, I only realized this when I looked back on all my builds and realized, oh shit, these are all Intel and NVIDIA builds. So next month's build will hopefully contain a lot more AMD builds, obviously including the new RX 480, which is the new king, if you want to say, of the mid-range gaming area. I gotta note that when I made these lists, the RX 480 wasn't even out yet, but at the time of me writing this script, the RX 480 actually had come out, so expect more of that next month, like I said. So for the processor, I chose a Pentium G4400, and I chose it for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons was the price. Now I know what you're saying, Tech Studio, AMD builds are the best for lower end gaming PCs. Okay, that's a fair point, but the G4400 is the probably best priced processor in the lower end range when you're talking under $70. The most similarly priced AMD processor that I could find is the A4-3400. Processor clocked at 2.7 GHz, which is actually 600 MHz less than the G4400. It's a dual-core processor with two 512 kilobytes of level 2 cache. It's a dual-core processor with two 512 kilobytes of level 2 cache, and it has no level 3 cache. It has 32 nanometer technology and was released in September of 2011. The G4400, on the other hand, has Intel's 14nm technology, clocked at 3.3 GHz, and has 3 MB of level 3 cache. In short, for under $70, the G4400 is definitely a better pick. Up that price by about $20, however, you're probably going to be looking at an AMD build. However, there is one reason that I did choose Intel, and it's because of the upgradability. If you want to just take and swap out that Pentium for like an i5 6500 or a 6600K, there's nothing stopping you if you want to switch that out in about a year or two. So for the motherboard, I choose a Gigabyte H110M-A. I was going to go with a Z170, but nobody's going to be overclocking a Pentium G4400, so the Z170 wasn't really practical in this case. This motherboard supports up to 32 GB of DDR4 memory that can be clocked up to 2130. This is a micro ATX motherboard, so if size is a factor, this is definitely the budget motherboard for you. Memory, I chose 8 GB of PNY Anarchy clocked at 2400 MHz. I know what you're saying. Our motherboard only supports 2133 MHz RAM. I know, I actually did say that. But our motherboard will automatically clock it down to 2133 MHz. I have a similar motherboard. It's an H170. It's kind of like a Z170, but without overclocking. And I have 2400 MHz RAM, and it automatically clocks it down to 2133 and works fine. 8 GB of memory is pretty much the sweet spot for gaming right now, and 16 GB of memory would be way overkill for a build of this caliber. Besides, in my current system, I actually have 16 GB of RAM, and I have not found a use for it once. It's maybe a little bit of performance, but it's essentially the same as 8. For storage, I chose an ADATA Premier SP550 120GB SSD. If you wanted to, you could swap this out for a 1TB hard drive for about the same price, but in my opinion, for starting rigs, a 120GB SSD is better than a 1TB, just because you probably aren't going to fill a 1TB up for some time. Plus, if you choose, you can just put a hard drive in your rig later down the road. For a case, I chose a Corsair Spec 01 Red ATX mid-tower case. I currently own this case and use it for my current everyday build. There's not much to say about it, but it does get the job done. The cable management in it is pretty decent, and if you want a glass side panel, you're in luck because this case actually has that. If you want any other case fans besides the one it comes with in the front, you're out of luck and you're going to have to buy another one because it only comes with one case fan. If you plan on buying another case fan but don't know where to go, I'll leave a link in the description for a good one. For a graphics card, I chose an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960 Super Clock Edition. This card comes with 2 GB of DDR5 memory and should play most modern games at 1080p on high settings. This card comes clocked at 1.28 GHz, but if you want to overclock it, you shouldn't have any problems. For a power supply, I chose a EVGA 430 watt power supply, which is plenty enough for our system. In the world of power supplies, it's not too bad to buy a low wattage power supply, granted that it meets your needs as long as it's a good brand. You You've probably seen that 480 Logis' power supply for only $13 a couple times. If you put that in a gaming rig, I can guarantee you it will die within a month. Believe me, it's worth it to shell out the extra $15 for an 80 plus bronze rating power supply. Well, that's it for this build. Please do let me know what you think in the comments, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down, and until next time, thanks for watching.